Lies, lies, lies. Misinformation, twisted nonsense. That's all we get from government media. Referring to just watching Fox News, they constantly shove these bogus numbers down people's throats, and most people don't understand that they're not true. For example, unemployment. Whatever they say unemployment is, that's not the real numbers. Do you understand how they get to those numbers? Well, sit back and relax. I'll explain it to you. It's very simple. They only count people who are currently collecting unemployment as unemployed. So if you had unemployment and it ran out, you still don't have a job, but you're not collecting anymore, you don't now count as unemployed, even though you're unemployed. If you had a small business and you went out of business and you don't work W-2 and you're not working, you're unemployed, but you don't count. If you work 1099 as an independent contractor, which I did for many, many years, and then you're unemployed, you don't count because you can't collect unemployment because you haven't paid into it. If you're an illegal migrant, you don't count. There are literally tens of millions of unemployed people that they don't count on that list. So the real numbers typically are at least double what they say it is. That's the real numbers. Also, by the way, then there are people who aren't in the workforce who could work, but just choose not to. They're not actually looking for work. Again, they count, right? As unemployed. Most homeless people don't get unemployment. They don't count as unemployed on that number. So it's typically at least double. Now with all so many illegal migrants, we already had. It's hard to say. I mean, they used to say 11 million, and some people said as much as 22 million. And now we've had 8, 9 million come in. I mean, so you have probably 9 or 10% is the real numbers of actual unemployed people. Because remember, if you got all these criminals out there, they're not employed. They don't. I mean, it's illegal work, so technically employed, but they're not contributing. And there are millions, so none of them count, right? Then they also use GDP growth. Well, what is GDP growth? GDP is just the size of your economy. It doesn't mean you have a good economy. It just means you have a large economy. And if you have high GDP growth, that just means the economy is growing more. Doesn't mean you're in good shape. Because growing more doesn't necessarily mean good, right? If you're growing too fast and you can't handle it, so you're spending more to keep up with the growth, you're not in a good place. California's a perfect example. They have I think the eighth largest GDP, in terms of GDP, eighth largest economy in the world. But they're in horrible shape. They owe $600 billion in debt, and they are, I forget how much, I think it's $500 million shortfall on tax revenue coming in. So, in other words, they don't have enough taxes to take care of the regular business coming in. So, large economy, irrelevant. You're still in bad shape. So, they use, when that dictator Biden says, the economy's great, that's all he uses. Unemployment, the fake numbers of unemployment, and then GDP growth, which is irrelevant, and the stock market. which is also irrelevant. And, oh, well, those things are good. Wow, the economy's great. That's why people are like, uh, my bank account keeps getting smaller, and uh, groceries are definitely keep getting higher. But what's he talking about? That's all he's talking about. That's all he uses as a metric for the good economy, because they don't live in the same world as we do. Right? They're in a whole different world, literally. They can't even comprehend what your average American's life is. They can't comprehend it. It's so far out of the realm they just can't comprehend it. It's like an average person trying to comprehend how you still have some very primitive tribes out there in the world that still live the same way they did 1,000 years ago. In wooden huts, no electricity, no running water, no indoor bathroom. They still live like that. It's not a lot of them, but there's a bunch of little tribes who still live like that. Your average person can't really fully comprehend what it would be to live like that. And then most people, they'd be horrified if they had to live like that, and they wouldn't make it. They'd be miserable. But anyway, but they use those numbers, and then just keep drilling it down your head, and so people just start to believe it, even though deep down they know it's not true. But people say it so much, and with a straight face, they go, "Well, I guess they know more than me, so I guess things are good." No, they're not good. Just go by your own economy, and that's how you know if the economy is good or not. And then this lie about minimum wage. Okay, minimum wage is meant, maybe not intentionally meant, but you should take minimum wage as a way to better yourself. Meaning, when you work minimum wage, which most of us, at least for a short time, work minimum wage, maybe through high school or college, or maybe your first job, for a few months you worked minimum wage, and you see your check, you see what you can do, which is not much, and you go, hell no, I don't. I got to make sure I make a lot more than that. And so that's your incentive. Minimum wage is your incentive to not continue down that path and just be minimum or slightly above minimum. But not everybody thinks that way. I've lived in every demographic there is in terms of economic demographic, and immersed myself in those, and I've been friends with people that are crazy rich, people that are ridiculously poor, and so I understand the mentality, and I understand what it is on both ends. So, and what I noticed was the majority of people who are low income, those aren't alpha people. Their personality, they're not alphas. They're not go-getters. They don't have the entrepreneurial spirit. Some of them have ideas, but they don't have the confidence, or they don't feel they have enough. They're not confident in their intelligence to be able to pull it off. You know what I mean? A small business, or something, invention. So they're kind of like what some people would call, I'm an idea man. I have some good ideas, but I don't really have maybe the will, or don't have the proper, confidence and personality to actually figure out how to do it myself. So there's a lot of that right there, where they're not stupid people at all. You know, they're average or above average, some quite a bit above average. Um, but, excuse me, sorry. Um, but they're not that alpha type of person. They're a beta person. Or even, you know, different, kappa person, or, you have like A, B, C, D. Some people they're just followers. That's just their personality. And I've known people that they work, at Jack in the Box, flipping burgers, making maybe a couple of dollars more than minimum wage, and they're happy. They really are happy. You can see it in them. I've spoken to them many times. I mean, they're happy. They might live with family or several friends, and they don't care about owning a car. Sometimes they do own a car. Um, and they're just happy to have a, excuse me, roof over their head, enough money to eat well, at least what they consider well, and have some spare money to, you know, buy some decent clothes and go out to eat here and there, or go see a movie now and then, and maybe go to a nightclub once in a while, and they're happy. They're not they don't seem to have any real stress. They're not stressed at their work. They just go do their time. It's not a career. It's just a regular job to them, and they're happy-go-lucky. I've seen so much of it because my dad owned houses, apartments, and rented them, and he owned a hotel in downtown LA, and an apartment in a very low-income apartment with 185 units. So I've seen the mentality. I've known people that were on welfare. And honestly, and also for years I canvassed in low income areas. So I would speak to people about their income and about, how they get their income and how many people in the house. And sometimes, depending on the feedback, I would, take it a little further than I had to, and just try and, because I've always been into psychology, so I would kind of take it further and try and get into the mentality to see where they're at, and a very large percentage of them are that type of person I was talking about. That they don't need a ton of money. They're happy just as long as they have their basics. They have their health generally. They're with family and friends close by, and they're fine. They're used to living in the lower income area, where it can be a little bit, depending on the area, it can be a little dreary. The buildings aren't exactly all nice and beautiful, and maybe there's graffiti here and there. And after a while, I guess, because you're born and raised in it, it just becomes kind of like background, and so they almost don't notice it, So you have a lot of those, people like that. I don't know why did I start talking about this? Shit. Yeah. Start talking about lying government. Why did I bring that up? Now I forgot. You see what happens? Sometimes. Even smarty pantses go down the wrong path and forget what they were talking about. I'm not exactly a genius, but I'm close. I checked my IQ. 133, 140 is considered genius. But now that I'm older and I'm in bad shape, I am noticing a little bit of memory loss here and there. Anyway, enough about me. So, back to government. They lie and manipulate pretty much all the time. So it's unfortunate because it's hard to know what's actually the truth. you know. And most people, they don't have the time or don't want to take the time to delve in and really try and see what the truth is. Excuse me. It's sad, you know, but they use that, they know that, so they use that against us and they manipulate us to just keep gobbling up more power, more power. Um, that's why we're in such a mess right now. We are just awful, and it's because of those greedy bastards, you know. Anyway, um, like I said before, one thing my dad taught me that was good was believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see. And I've lived by that my whole life. That's good advice right there. So, if someone says something on the internet, on the internet or on the news, or some politician opens his mouth, just assume it's all a lie, and then take some time to try and see if you can figure it out on your own. So, all right. I could talk about the lies all day long. Climate change is another one. Um, the Earth isn't going to burn up. I, I won't go into that, but I made another video about climate change. If you just check it out, I think I just put it as "Let's Talk Climate Change." And more explanation there. I've done a lot of research on it, so I think I got a handle on that. So, all right, see you later.